Hello, everyone. Welcome to the March 2014 Professor Messer Live A+ Study Group. This is a monthly study group that we do to answer your questions, whether you are calling in on this live call-in show or you're sending me the questions throughout the month. I try to grab all of those questions, compile them together, throw out some of the ones that are just a little bit odd, although I do appreciate you asking the occasional odd question. I tend to group together the things that a lot of people are asking about, and we go through those. Also, take your calls. As I mentioned, it's a live call-in show, and if you are watching us live, you'll see it on professormesser.com/live. There are some numbers to look at. Of course, I'll be showing you a little more about those numbers in just a bit. There's already people on the phone, so I promised I would get through some of these introductory pieces. There's also a chat room, by the way, that you can join us on professormesser.com. If you're on any page on professormesser.com, the chat is at the bottom, and I open up a live A+ study group chat room just for this. So that's the one I'm looking at. I'm not looking at the other chat rooms right now, so I'm really focusing on that piece. You can ask questions and participate and ask me other things that I might want to. I'll ask you questions, you ask me questions. We'll go back and forth. I am fighting the last bit of a cold, so we're going to struggle through this. I'm going to try to have you talk perhaps more than me on this particular study group. We'll see how that turns out. One of the things that I really like to do on the study group is not only give you this free content, but I also want to give you those dial-in numbers as well. You can contact me at 347-989-8745 if you're in the United States and you'd like to call up via that toll line, but I do have a toll-free line available. This is really something I created for Skype, because if you're on Skype, you can call anywhere in the world. You can call me on this free Skype number, +1 855-235-4742. Of course, so I couldn't do this without your support. I really do appreciate the subscriptions that you've given me on YouTube. It's remarkable how much that really helps when I start talking to Google about doing different things. They like to see that there are a lot of subscribers there. We're up over 60,000 subscribers on YouTube. I'm looking to get as many people interested in subscribing to this as possible. You can also follow us on Twitter, which is a great place to see our daily pop quiz questions. Occasionally, I put some other information in there. If I'm doing something technically interesting, I try to take a picture and put it out there. I also like to make you aware that GTS Learning is sponsoring a lot of what we do here at Professor Messer, and they have vouchers that you can use on any of your CompTIA exams. You can find those at professormesser.com/vouchers. Quite a bit to look at in those pieces. Now, in the chat room, some folks have already asked about things that are specific to continuing education. We've talked about the continuing education credits that you can get and apply towards renewing your CompTIA certification. So if you have your A+ cert, you could watch this study group and get credit for it. Now, you can't watch online study groups and fill up every possible continuing education credit that you might need to renew. That would be a little bit too easy, but it does give you some opportunities to gather some that you can apply. You still have to do other things as well, not just watch the videos. You can find out more about that on the CompTIA website. The URL is there at the top, but if it's too difficult to figure out the ASPX extension of the URL, you can easily just search for CompTIA Renewal CE, and you will find everything you need to know about continuing education units. You can watch this today and get those units. Sometime during the lesson, I will give you a key code, something. I'll tell you a word or a series of words or a phrase, and if you email that to me, I can then provide you with a certification that you watched this particular video. If you're watching an older one and I don't give a key phrase or I just forget for some reason, you can send me the questions that I put up on the screen and send those to me, and I'll know that you at least went through the video to get those as well. We did a lot last month that I got a lot of questions about this month, a lot of repeated questions. So I'm not going to repeat some of the things I did last month, but I want to make you aware that last month we talked about command prompts on the 802 exams. We talked about running into diagnosing mobile devices and how much of that you would really need to know for your A+ certification. We talked about partitioning and formatting a drive from the command line. And in the after show, I usually hang out and do an after show. We actually did a live partitioning and formatting of a drive from the command line. So it wasn't hard at all. You just step through all the commands to do that. Very, very useful to have that there. We talked about where you can take the CompTIA exam, and we also talked about what subjects you might see on the 801 exam, 801 and 802 exams. So that's another set of topics we will revisit this month as well. Finishing up some of these announcements for this week, I do have my course available online. You can watch every minute of every video for absolutely free. Kind of an odd thing to do as far as running a business is concerned, but it's a model that seems to work and you like it. So I will keep making videos. They will all be free. They will be put on the net so you can watch them. Well, another thing that I do, though, is make some offline versions. If you're on a plane, if you just like to have them available because you don't have a lot of bandwidth available, they are available for purchase. You can find those out on my website at professormesser.com/downloadable-A+. I also include closed captions. I also include transcripts so that you can see those as well. Now, before I jump to the calls, I want to ask you a question. And the question that I have for you is specifically around how much you have been studying for your A+ exam. I ask this question every month just to see the idea of who's watching and how long you've been doing this. So get your QR code readers handy or pop open a new window in your browser or use your mobile device and go to govote.at and go to enter the number 998735, or you can simply scan this QR code and be able to watch the changes that will occur on your screen as you are watching that QR code go by. People will vote on that as we go through those pieces. While we are doing that, let's go to the phones and see if we have some folks from the 979 area code. Are you there, caller? Oh, it's a very quiet caller. I suspect the 979 area code doesn't have a good microphone on their Skype. Are you there? Are you there? Give me another chance, and I'll put you back on hold. We may come back to you. I do have someone also holding from the 240 area code. Let's see if the 240 area code is there. Are you there, caller?
Hello?
Hey, how are you?
How are you, Professor?
I'm quite well, thank you. Thanks for calling. What's your name?
My name is Patrick.
Hey, Patrick. Thanks for calling in. What's your question today?
Well, I have a couple of questions, but before I ask you a couple of questions, I wanted to thank you. You've helped me get the A+ and the Net Plus certification.
Awesome.
And yeah, right now I'm working on Security Plus. I'm watching your videos, taking notes. I'm actually a senior in high school, by the way.
Wow. Okay.
And
you're a little ahead of the game.
Yeah. Yeah. I started into this IT stuff this year. I'm taking a course in my high school. It's called Network Operations, and they just teach A+, but it was okay. But your videos really, really helped me.
They never taught this in my high school. Now, one of the problems, of course, when I went to high school is there wasn't a lot of networking going on. There was a computer in my high school. We saved everything to cassette tapes. There was no hard drives or floppy disks at the time. That's a little sad when I say it that way. It's kind of exciting, though, that in a high school they're teaching some of those very detailed technical things. And interestingly enough, there's actually practical use for that when you get out of school. That's really phenomenal. So you said you had a couple of questions, and you're quite welcome. And by the way, the Security Plus course, one of the favorites that I did. So I think you're going to enjoy getting that certification.
Mm-hmm. So I wanted to ask you right now. I believe they released a new version. There's new objectives for the Security Plus, but yours covered the 301. Is that right?
Correct. So the thing that's happening right now with Security Plus, this has happened. So even though we're on an A+ study group, this really does also apply to the A+. It applies to Network Plus. About every 3 years, CompTIA adjusts or updates their certification exams. they make a brand new version of it. So if you were around at the end of the year, this past year, beginning of or 2 years ago, we went from the 700 series A+ exams to the 800 series A+ exams. So they changed them completely. One of the things that CompTIA will do is they will make some adjustments to the content. They'll get rid of some old content. They'll add some new content. They don't make a drastic change, but they do make a change nonetheless. One of the things they also do, and a lot of people don't realize that, and they get very nervous. So one of the things you should also consider for your Security Plus is they will make the update, and then they'll have both exams available to take for a certain amount of time, 6 months or 9 months. I think with the last A+, they had a 9-month overlap period between the time when they released the new exam and the time that the old exam went away. So what this allows you to do is that if you've already been studying, well, just keep studying, because you just have to take the exam sometime in the next 6 to 9 months, which I think most people should be able to do without much of a problem. Whether you take the old exam or take the new exam, you get exactly the same certification. There's literally no difference between the certification that you would get in the old version and the certification that you would get in the new version. So you don't have to worry that one is going to be better or worse than the other. Eventually, the 301 on the Security Plus will go away, just as the 700 series on the A+ went away. And at that point, of course, you can't take the old version. You know, with the A+, for the people watching that one, if you remember, if you had taken one of the tests and then they finished them, they closed them, they retired them, you couldn't take the second test. You had to start all over again. In your case, Patrick, the Security Plus exam is only one exam. So you only have to take one of those. And interestingly enough, because I'm, of course, already working on the new 400 series Security Plus exam videos, very, very little was changed relative to some of the other exam changes that I've seen in the past. So you would almost, I don't want to say this because people might take this the wrong way, you could literally test or study for the 301. And I think if you knew the 301 content solid, you could walk into the 401 Security Plus exam and be just fine. That's how little changed between those two different exams. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much.
I think that's going to be fine. So don't even worry yourself about the exams changing. You'll have plenty of time. And even when you take the exam, you're getting exactly the same exam. It's not a worse or better certification to have, because you ultimately get the same piece of paper. You said
okay, Professor.
There were
Thank
other
you.
questions as well?
I wanted to also ask you, do you, because I'm still in high school, and over the summer I would like to get like a job based on my certifications. Do you know? Obviously, it's different everywhere else. I live on the East Coast. I'm specifically in Maryland.
Okay.
But do you know if there would be like entry jobs for people like me that don't have college degrees yet, but still have certifications?
There are a few options available for you. And this is, interestingly enough, the same challenge that someone might have if they were getting out of college. You don't have any practical experience in working in a job for a year. Usually employers are looking for some practical experience that you would have. Well, obviously, coming right out of school, you don't have any, but the employers know this. When you're applying, they understand that you're just out of college. In fact, you may be a little bit more desirable for one of their entry-level help desk or entry-level break-fix type positions, because you don't have to, they don't have to pay you as much. That's one benefit that the employer has. But then again, that you don't have to worry about coming in with additional experience. They can find practically anyone to fill that position, and then they train you. They send you to training. They have in-house training. There's on-the-job training. That's a great place to get the experience. When I was in high school, there weren't a lot of computer technical jobs available. I worked at a video rental store. And for those of you that don't remember, that was a brick and mortar building you would go into to rent videos to watch for later. Today it's called Redbox. The idea behind this is I wanted to be able to at least get into some type of technical role. So it took me until I got into college where I got a part-time job and I started working as an operator in their supercomputer center. So they would take students, because it's a college, there's plenty of students to pull from, and they'd stick you in literally a basement with a bunch of mainframe computers all night, and you would take printouts off the printer and you would put tapes onto a tape drive. It was menial grunt type work. It was mindless in what you were doing, but there was so much computing technology around that you couldn't help to get into other things. Even if it wasn't part of your job, you could like hang around and see what the guy fixing the tape drive or what the folks doing to work on the mainframe were doing, or ask the users of the mainframe what they were doing. These days, you have so many other options. You could volunteer at a nonprofit. There's usually someone taking care of their computers now. Maybe they need to make sure their antivirus is updated. Maybe they need to have somebody run some checks. Maybe they need to get rid of malware. I guarantee you they need to get rid of malware. I walk into businesses all throughout the week. Every single business I walk into has machines infected with malware. So it's not a real money-making solution when you're volunteering for those types of things, but isn't it great that you're able to help another organization that could use the help, and at the same time you are getting practical experience that you can put on a resume? I think ultimately you need to find somebody who knows somebody. And as somebody, if you don't have any experience, you now have education, you now have some certifications. Now you just need a chance. And I think asking friends and family, do you know someone with a business? Because people will trust to hire someone or use somebody that they know. Even if they don't know you directly, they know you through someone else. Don't discount that. Your employers are looking for people they can trust, that you're going to come into work. And if you can use some of those connections, you're obviously going to have to get the job on your own. But wouldn't it be great just to be able to use word of mouth to also effectively market yourself and advertise yourself to employers? There was a website also I went through last week. I'm going to have to find that one again. I'll post it to Twitter later today, which was a site where you could search for volunteering. So you could put in your zip code. It will tell you all the places where you needed to volunteer and the types of things they were looking for. You could find technical jobs very easily that way as well. So that may be something else to try too.
Okay, Professor. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for calling, Patrick, and good luck with that Security Plus exam.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
There is, how exciting, isn't it? Let's go back to looking at how many people are studying, then we'll go back to our callers. How long have we been studying? Well, you can see we've got this almost exactly the same type of graph that we seem to create every week. A lot of you have been studying for about 6 months, and then there's people like me that take much longer amounts of time to study for their certification exams. A nice mix, though. So today we're going to go through a number of topics and try to describe the things that we might want to do to kind of approach and look at each one of those things too. I see a lot of you are in the chat room as well. I'm going to talk about some things today, especially around getting test engines and how you can help learn information for some of the exams you might be taking, especially the new performance-based questions. Okay, I've got some other folks holding. Let's go to, I'm going to go quickly back to the 979 area code, see if that caller's there. Are you there, caller? I think that caller is just not going to be there. Plus, that's some gripping things to see. Now we can, at least on the stream, you can see those pieces as well. So let's flip over to the 661 area code. Are you there, caller? I think the caller might be there. I'm trying to get my system to click his line over. He may not be there. I'm going to put him back on hold, and then let me pick you up on the phone again. Nope, you're there. Are you there, 661? Nothing, just silence. Well, you can try calling back in. The lines are open. And there, now you can see the results. I was talking about the results earlier on the stream. None of you could see them. So you could add to this list. Oh, thank you. In the chat room, they're reminding me the volunteermatch.com website. These folks are right on the money with remembering everything I've been doing, the things that I can't remember. So yeah, you can call into that phone line. The phone line is available during our live study group to call in and ask questions live. So you're welcome to do that. There's a completely different number you can call if you go to the Contact Us link at the top of the Professor Messer website and you'd like to ask questions after the study group is over. That would be a great place to go to either send me an email or drop a message on there or send a voicemail through that as well. So there's lots of ways to do that. Let's have a look at some of the things that are associated with the CompTIA exam. I had someone ask me earlier in a chat room. It was actually, I think we were interactively just answering questions in the chat room one night because I tend to hang out in there during the evenings and see what's going on the website. And they said, what do I really need to know to pass this A+ certification exam? And there tend to be a lot of these questions. This was last night. The person said, I'm not really sure what I need to know. And we always ask in the chat room, well, have you looked at the exam objectives? Because there's a lot of information. We'll look at that in just a moment because there's so much detail on the exam objectives. So go to professormesser.com/objectives. It will take you to the CompTIA website where you can download those. There's so much information. And for the A+ certification, you have to take 2 exams. You have to pay for 2 exams. That's another important question that comes up. Do I have to pay for both of them? Yes, you do. What if I fail and I have to take it again? Then you have to pay for it again unless you purchase a voucher that specifically says that you get a retake. There's almost an insurance policy that CompTIA can provide in those cases. So the 801 exam goes through PC networking, PC hardware, networking, laptops, printers, and operational procedures. It tends to be very hardware focused because of the PC hardware section, but it's not just hardware. A lot of people, if they're just getting into networking, it's a new type of technology for them. So getting into the networking piece is very different and certainly not hardware related necessarily. There's also the 802 exam, which is definitely operating system focused. You go through Windows XP and Windows Vista and Windows 7. There's security, mobile devices, and troubleshooting there as well. The troubleshooting tends to have some people get caught on some of those troubleshooting pieces. Now, before we get into some command line functions, I want to go through a couple today. We do have someone who is on the phone on the 787 area code. Are you there, caller? I hear you.
Yes, I'm here. Do you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. Thank you. And what's your name?
I believe we talked in the last study group is Hector Vera.
Oh, hello, Hector.
I asked you about, I'm from Puerto Rico. You know, the Puerto Rican guy.
Oh, yes, I remember. Sure. The most wonderful people in the world you find, Puerto Rico.
Thank you. Anyways, I wanted to ask you something about Readyboost because I have a very old laptop from the Dell Inspiron 640N.
Wow.
And I was thinking, it has Windows XP still, but I'm thinking of upgrading it later on or pretty soon, like in a month or so, to Windows 7.
Sure.
And it has 2 gigs of RAM. It has 80 gigabytes of storage.
Yep.
And I was wondering if a 4 gigabyte or 8 gigabyte USB thumb drive, you know, one of those pen drives, it could use Readyboost when I upgrade to Windows 7.
For those of you that haven't even looked at the Readyboost piece yet, Readyboost is a technology available in, I think it's Windows Vista and Windows 7. In fact, I have in Windows 8, although Windows 8 obviously not part of the certification exam. It's one where the idea is that these hard drives that you're using are mechanical devices. They're spinning platters, and it takes time to pull information from the drive. So wouldn't it be nice if you could cache information in something that was faster than the spinning drive? And that's really the most important part of this is you have to find what's fast on that spinning drive to be able to see it. And this is
like a solid state drive.
If you have a solid state drive, Readyboost won't help you at all. Not even useful to you in the least, because SSDs are so fast. Why would you need to cache something on flash memory? Your flash memory is probably slower than your SSD is, so doesn't even apply. So this really does apply to spinning drives. I think that's really the key takeaway there. You also have to have a flash memory stick that is fast enough to be faster than your drive, and it has to plug into an interface that ideally is at least USB 2 so that you can get throughputs to that flash drive that would be fast enough as well. Now you're caching this really startup information to your USB drive, and that goes a lot faster than going through and trying to increase or pull this information directly from a spinning disk. Now, one of the things you'll wonder is, can my USB drive really support this? And the way that you know is you plug it in, and Windows will tell you, oh, would you like to use this for Readyboost? Let me check and make sure it's fast enough. And if it's not fast enough, they'll tell you, sorry, we can't use that one at all. Now, I will tell you that I get some different experiences. Here's the properties for the flash drive in Windows 7, where you can choose to use that flash drive E. If you right mouse click on the drive and look at the properties, there will be a Readyboost tab if you can use it. And you can tell Windows don't use it, dedicate it to Readyboost, and you can tell maybe how much of that you would like to dedicate to be Readyboost, and you can use the rest of it for your documents. I have had...
Yeah, that I do.
Have you tried it on your machine yet?
No, I haven't, because the only pen drives I have are about 1 to 2 gigabytes, and I don't think they're going to be that good for the laptop I had that already has 2 gigs of RAM. I was thinking if probably a 4 gig of RAM could probably give it like a little bit more speed so it could lag a lot less, because it does run decently well in my XP right now, but sometimes it lags, and I kind of wanted to run a little bit more smoother. You know, at least notice a little bit of a difference. I'm not expecting like a big upgrade or a big leap, but something that I can navigate a lot better. Of course, Windows XP doesn't really have that feature, that I know.
Right, it does not.
And that's one of the reasons why I'm upgrading to Windows 7. So I can continue using that old laptop as well. Okay, it's not really my main laptop.
I have had mixed experiences running Readyboost. I've run it on a couple of machines, and it's run reasonably well. And you're right, you will not be expecting a twice as fast machine. You're really just increasing some of the speeds for caching that would normally go to your drive. There was one computer I used it on, though. I would plug in and use Readyboost, and the CPU on my system really spiked pretty heavily, because it turns out the controllers for USB don't generally have onboard processors there. If you've ever used FireWire, for instance, you'll notice you plug in FireWire and you don't even see a hit to the CPU, because a lot of the FireWire controllers have built-in CPUs to be able to do everything that FireWire uses. But USB, at least USB 1 and 2, doesn't really have a large set of processors available, so it uses your main CPU. So I got into a situation where I was spending so much time putting information on my flash drive and pulling it off my flash drive and using CPU, that the CPU didn't have time to take care of the information that was being pulled from the hard drive, and it ended up making my system slower just by plugging in and using the Readyboost. So that one didn't work as well as I was hoping. You might want to try it with your...
It's always worth it, you're saying, right?
It might or might not be. It's just going to depend on the system you're running. If you have some flash drives available and they're Readyboost compliant, try it. Even if it's a 2 gig flash drive, you would at least see what the overall performance of your system would be by using that. It's not going to use all 2 gig, at least not to begin with. So you would at least get an idea of your performance and how that might work. I think that might be a good test. And then you can decide... I want to say you can decide to invest in a larger flash drive. These days, the larger drives, the flash drives aren't that expensive.
They're a lot cheaper these days.
Exactly.
I wanted to buy a flash drive, but I want to be sure if it's actually worth it for Readyboost.
Right.
Also, if these flash drive, are they able to burn Windows 7 in a USB drive, like a 2 gigabyte or 4 gigabyte model?
Yeah, if you got a window, if you needed to keep an ISO. Like you wanted to boot from that to install Windows 7, something like that? Yeah, you get a 4 gig drive, you'll be fine there. You got plenty of room. You can copy everything over from an existing DVD. When I bought Windows 7, I bought it directly from Microsoft, and they had me download the ISO. So that was an easy way I could keep it on my drive. Be a good way to do it.
Because my old laptop, the DVD drive, it doesn't work anymore. That's why I asked you that, because, but the USB still works, and, I was just wondering.
I think we have the same computer, same old laptop computer sitting around, because mine doesn't either. I guess the only concern I have is just to make sure that the BIOS of that particular computer can support booting from a flash drive. And if you want to boot from that ISO, that you make the flash drive bootable, which is a completely different conversation. Maybe that's for the next study group.
Oh, okay. Then, yeah, we'll leave it up to there for now. Thanks a lot for everything. And if there's any other questions I have later on, I'll be sure to let you know.
Please do. Thanks for calling, Hector.
No problem. And hope you have a good day.
You too.
Bye.
The Readyboost, and maybe it's in the chat room, I don't think there's been a lot of conversation back and forth. It tends not to be something that people run a lot any longer because there's so many more SSD drives. Those solid state drives are so fast that you don't need any to cache anything to flash memory. So there are some benefits there as well. We've got a lot of other callers on the line, but before we get too far into this, I want to talk a little bit about some of the sponsors we have today that have been nice enough to let us do some of the things we're doing. First, I want to make you aware, if you are studying for your A+ certification, there's a number of study guides that I also have available on my website. This is something that I use to help keep the website going. We have now multiple web servers and database servers and monitoring systems and reverse proxies. And I keep saying that I'm going to explain in the Network Plus study group how all that's done. So I'll have to do that. Next week is the Network Plus study group. If you're looking to take everything from all of my videos, all of the diagrams, all of the pictures, everything that I put together in each one of those videos, and you need it in one concise PDF file, this may be something you'd be interested in because I've been able to fit them all on that piece. I'll give you an idea of what this looks like on the PDF. This is what I use to be able to make these PDFs available to you. I wonder if I can make that full screen here. So here, for instance, is the 802 study guide. It's got all of the versions of Windows on it. You can see which ones you can upgrade. Here's command line information. There's another one that becomes really, really useful to know. This PDF, I just took everything from every video and I put it into this PDF file in a single consolidated view. It's 12 pages, so it's not going to be something that's just enormous to go through. It's really designed, once you've watched all the videos, once you've read your book, it's a great way to go through and learn more about the things you just have to know, those memorization techniques that you need to know about. And I tried to price them in a way that a lot of people want to support the website, but they can't afford $200 for the video course. Here's something that you can not only contribute to the things that we're doing here, because every penny of this goes directly into the support of the website, but you also get something nice in return that you're able to use. So you can find those at professormesser.com/A+SG, A+ study guide, to be able to see that. We've got some other folks on the line. Let me first go to the chat room and make sure I haven't missed anybody who's looking for things there. I think we're in good shape there. So let's go through some of the calls that we have. We will go to the person who's been holding the most right now is the 559 area code. Are you there, caller? Oh, I hear you. Hello.
Oh, hi.
Hi. What's your name?
My name is Jeremiah.
Hello, Jeremiah. What is your question today?
I have 3 questions.
Okay, well, let's start with number one.
And my first one is there like any quick ways to memorize the port numbers, the TCP and UDP port numbers?
This is, it's remarkable how many questions I get about port numbers. I think that's when you get into that 801 test, the networking piece is something that's occasionally brand new to folks. It is one that is I don't want to say it's harder than the other content, but it's just different than the other content. Networking is a completely different perspective on trying to understand what you need to know. Now, fortunately, the CompTIA website in the objectives has a list of exactly the port numbers that you need to understand for the exam. So you've also, if you've ever seen this, I've seen on the website, these or other websites, this enormous list of port numbers it's hundreds and hundreds of port numbers, or even in books. I find that the port numbers are just huge, and I'm not sure where they're getting this list of port numbers from, because there aren't that many port numbers on the exam in the study objectives, in the CompTIA objectives. CompTIA is really good about focusing just on what you need to know to get through the exam. And I think they've got a nice mix of the port numbers there. If you go to my website, section 2 of the 801 videos talks about networking, and I'm going to flip through here and find the exact IP port number information. It's called Common TCP and UDP Ports. It's video 2.4. And it lists out for you exactly the ports that you would need to know to be able to to pass the exam. So I'm going to pop these up here so you can see them. Unfortunately, your question was really, is there an easy way to memorize these things? And there really isn't. It's a rote memorization. Here's the video. Here's the picture of these. Maybe I can make this full screen for you to see it. There we go. So the ports themselves there's no reference here. There's not like you could say, oh, port 25. Oh, clearly 25 means male, and male is SMTP. See how easy that was?
Yeah.
There's just no way. There's no mnemonics I can stick with those things. Now, fortunately, there's a finite number. There's FTP, SMTP, DNS, Telnet, HTTP, POP3, IMAP, HTTPS, and RDP from a TCP perspective. That's it. Plus they throw in DNS on the UDP side as well. So the best I can tell you is I can't think of an easy way to memorize those things, but I guess I can say there's not that many that you would have to. So maybe flashcards would be a good choice there.
Okay.
And maybe some folks in the chat room have some suggestions as well. What other questions do you have?
My second question is, because I heard without the A+ certification, you can still apply as a technician, but the training costs are just higher.
Training costs for what specifically?
Just any technician job.
Oh, okay. There is a constant debate going on about certifications and their value. And I think it's a good debate to have because you are making a time and a money investment into getting a certification. Ideally, to do something with that certification. The value of the certification is really going to be based upon what you do with it. I think most people are taking a certification to either get a first job or they're taking the certification to move up in the career ladder at their existing position. Some people are getting these certifications to move from a completely different set of things that they do. I've had people that have been focused in music and now they're working in networking. You know, there's a big difference between music and networking. They just changed entire roles of what they were doing in their life. And that's a very common thing to see as well. So the question about, do you get the A+ certification? You have certain employers that are looking for the A+ certification as a prerequisite. So you can't even apply to that job. They don't even want to talk to you unless you have your A+. Now, is that really something they should be doing? Is that really worthwhile to the employer? Well, that's really a question for the employer. I think a lot of people miss the point with the A+ certification that you're learning a lot of information. You're learning about hardware. You're learning about networking. There are operating systems, installing, troubleshooting, fixing. There is information about security inside of this exam. You're really getting a very broad education. And if you really apply yourself to learning each one of these pieces, when you get your A+ certification, you'll be ready to get the next thing. I think there's a lot of value in doing that. Some employers don't care though. They could care less whether you are getting a certification or not. They don't put a lot of emphasis on it. They don't care that much. Their idea is that they're going to get you whether you have an education in that or not, and they'll train you internally. But as I mentioned earlier, if you don't have a certification, that becomes a little more difficult during the negotiation process for your salary. So if you don't have an education, they can get you for less money. They can hire you for less money. And then, of course, they can train you. And then perhaps then you can get raises or move to another organization where you can make a little more money. If you have a certification, you can look at the number and say, well, I appreciate the offer, but I have this certification and I've been doing work with this group for the past year. And I think I've got the skills that would maybe allow me to have a little bit higher salary. Is that something we could work on for me to accept this position because I'd love to work here? And they could say, yes or no, but at least you'd have something in your back pocket you can pull out and go, what about this? I know things and that's valuable and you should pay for that. I'm not going to work for free on that piece. So I would recommend you go to some of the big online websites that have job postings. So go to the Career Builders and go to the monsters that are out there and look to see what the employers are looking for, especially in your area. And that should give you an idea of, is this something that's going to be valuable for an employer? Then you separately should look at it and say, is this something that's going to be valuable for me personally? And then you could make the decision you need to make.
Okay. And my last question
Sure.
is, if you don't have any network, you don't have any USB, but you're missing a certain drive, how would you fix it?
You're in Windows
upgrade the
and
drive.
it's not showing the drives there, or you just don't have any of those interfaces on your
You just
computer.
don't have it.
So your computer doesn't have any USB interfaces. Maybe somebody's poked it with a fork and they don't work anymore. You don't have a DVD-ROM to be able to do anything like to boot from a DVD-ROM and that type of thing. Are you asking how would you then, and you don't have a network, so you're asking how would I get information onto that computer?
Yeah.
I think you've limited yourself, haven't you? I think you've now locked yourself down into a U.S. government high security environment where there's no network, there's no external media, there's no USB drive. It becomes a little bit more difficult. What other ways? Maybe the chat room can come up with some ideas of ways to get data onto that machine other than pulling out the hard drive, putting it in a chassis, copying things to the hard drive, or getting a different drive and sticking it into that computer. You've got your options are becoming very, very limited at that point, I would think. Is that a test question from somewhere? It's an awful question.
No, it's a question I've been just wondering.
Okay. It makes you think, though. How would I get data onto that computer? You've pretty much cut off every input you have. You could type it into the keyboard. That's really the only input you might have left. You could show it in your camera that's on your laptop. There's just no easy way to get data into it at that point if you've gotten rid of all those other pieces, I think.
Yeah.
I can't think of a good one. It's time to find another computer. That's my suggestion.
Well, those are all my questions. Thank you, Professor.
I appreciate you calling. Thanks, Jeremiah. There is I can't think of anything. I bet somebody in the chat room will come out with some unique idea of ways to get data into a machine. Maybe one of the next callers were from the 661 area code. Are you there, caller? There's a couple of 661. So the person who also is on the other 661 line is yelling right now at me. So the 380 NPA, as we say in the technical telephony world, the 380 NPA is the one I'm at. I don't hear anything from you. So let's go to the other 661. Are you over there, 661? I heard something.
Think of anything.
Oh, I hear me. So you have to listen into the Skype or the call line to be able to hear that piece and what's going on. Let's check the chat room real quick. I have other folks on hold. I will be getting to you in just a moment. They have that challenge to be able to get those things. We were talking earlier about operating systems. There were some folks who were asking me today, hey, Windows XP is going away. Is Windows XP going to be on the exam? In fact, I think I have the question specifically that came up. This one was from Russell, who sent this in that said, with Windows XP not supported anymore after April 2014, that's coming up next month, will this change the A+ exam? And I don't think it will very much. One of the things you'll notice about the A+ exam is that it is not specific to giving you just everything that's new. It's really focusing on giving you information about what you might run into. In fact, people say there's some really old technology on the A+ certification. And I say, well, I just went into an office where that really old technology was in active use. So if you're a technician for that company, you need to know that. I mean, it's only recently they got rid of Windows 2000 on the exam, and I will still occasionally in an airport see a machine running Windows 2000. Not as many anymore, but you still see those things popping up. So if you're planning to get your A+ certification, yes, Windows XP will absolutely still be on the exam. I think that's something that a lot of people maybe haven't even thought about yet, is that how is this going to change? You know, this Windows 8 and 8.1 is not on the exam yet either, but at any time, CompTIA can change their exam objectives. So you may want to have a look at what the exam objectives are just before you go into your exam to see maybe they've changed something. Maybe they've added it. I'm constantly checking. Usually you tell me when things change because you folks will see the objectives update much faster than me. We do have someone on the line, the 941 area code. Are you there, caller on 941?
Hello?
Hello. Who's on the line? What's your name?
Just like to thank Joel.
Hey, Joel. Thank you.
I'd just like to thank you for your videos and tutorials. You know, they've really helped me out. I just got my Day Plus about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. It's been something I've been working on at my technical institute. About a week ago, I ran into an issue with my church's laptop that they use for a live streaming program.
Okay.
And I went into the task manager and noticed the system idle time was, going like way too high, higher than normal. Some of the processes were going, a little bit higher.
Sure.
And then I looked at the performance tab and noticed that for some odd reason the CPU was spiking from like, say, 30 to 50, then to 100%, and then just the program, it just automatically just, stops.
And you were saying that this is happening while somebody is doing a streaming function on that particular computer?
Yeah.
That's...
Yeah.
There goes, I'm bringing up my virtual machine right now so we can look at some of those pieces of it. I think when you start trying to find tasks, and this is becoming increasingly difficult when you start looking at processes on machines, especially these days, because I'm always wary of a bug.
And it was specifically a Windows XP.
Okay. Well, the same idea applies to Windows XP, Windows Vista, and Windows 7 as well with these processes. There's a couple of things to look at and to break out. So if we were to look at, let's bring up my machine that I have in front of me. Here we go. I've got a Windows, probably make this full screen, might help for everybody. There we go. And if I look at, I know you're seeing, if you're watching the stream, you're going to see this sort of later. We bring up the task manager. What I did is I right mouse click down in the bottom toolbar here, and you have the option to start the task manager. And that's what I did. My task manager here, I'm not running very much on my machine. And it shows the processes that I'm running. I'm logged in as Rodney McKay right now. So you folks that are leaving messages for me later on, my name is not Rodney. But I'm logged in as Rodney right now. One of the things that you'll notice also, one of the options you'll have, especially in Windows Vista and Windows 7, is this little button at the bottom that says show processes from all users. And that would be a useful one to click on to be able to see everything that's running on this computer. Look at the difference in my task manager when I said show everything, show all the services everywhere and what it's doing. The one you just talked about initially is one that it stumps me all the time. It catches me all the time, and it catches a lot of people. I'm going to sort by CPU at the top, and at the very top on my machine is one called System Idle Process. That's a process. It says it's a process, but it's really the amount of time that's not being used by the CPU. So this really is idle time. If that's my number one CPU usage, then there's very little going on my computer right now as far as CPU cycles are concerned. Now, one of the things you'll run into... Sorry, go ahead.
I even went into the services, .msc and the Runbox.
Yep.
I checked just some of the things, there. Obviously, there's a lot of Microsoft, services that go in there, and there's a checkbox there to, not show the Microsoft services, but some of the things in there. It was just AVG on there. Saw iPod support.
Sure.
Something like iTunes and stuff like that. I'd even looked into the page filing.
Right.
It seemed like everything was set correct, but I'm just trying to think. What could it have possibly been, trying to narrow it down.
None of the things that you have mentioned really jump out as being anything bad to me. And one of the other things you mentioned was at the very beginning that this is a system that's using for video streaming, really any streaming at all, because now you're using every possible piece of hardware in that device. Was this a desktop machine or a laptop?
It was a laptop.
Okay, so here's why I asked, because I obviously do quite a bit of video work and streaming. And I have a laptop that I use now. When you start streaming, you start doing video editing, you start doing anything like that, it's using every possible piece of hardware. It's using the storage on that machine to do caching and writing of files that you may need to be recording for the video stream. It's using your network interface and really sending a lot of information out of that network interface because you're streaming across the network. You're also using a lot of video card resources because there's video that now has to get chopped up into bits and bytes, put into some type of package that makes sense, stuck on the network and shoved out the network interface. And by the time it's done that, the video is changed and updated. And at the same time, there's audio that goes into that system. The audio card has to do this piece. And on laptop computers especially, there's very little specialized hardware to be able to do those types of things. One thing you'll notice on desktop computers is the video cards have a lot more on-card memory. They have a lot bigger and faster CPUs. So you may find that, and it sounds like you've done all the proper procedures. You've looked at the services, the processes that are running, the services. You might want to run an anti-malware scan, but from the things you're telling me, nothing there sort of jumped out as being malware related. I think you're just hitting the resources, the available functions of that particular laptop. It may be time to upgrade the computer or get a desktop computer that can handle the streaming process a little better, and go to the company that makes the software and say, what do you recommend for doing this? And you find out how much memory, what type of drive. I use a video streaming system here that insists that you use SSD because it writes so much information to the drive and they just can't keep up and with everything you might want to do with high definition on a spinning drive. What type of video card, maybe specific models, how much memory needs to be on those video cards. And if you have to be on a laptop platform, what laptop platform would they recommend? And I think that will give you a better idea of, have I got enough power in this specific piece of hardware to do all the things I need to do?
All righty. Well, definitely thank you for your time, for answering my question.
Thanks, Joel. I appreciate you calling. Well, good luck with that. Let us know how it goes, too.
Okay, I definitely will.
Thanks.
All righty. Thank you.
There's whenever I'm looking at laptops, obviously I'm doing so much with streaming video and streaming audio all the time. It becomes so important to me that I look at all those things on my system as well. We were talking earlier about the 802 exam and about troubleshooting and trying to get as much troubleshooting skills available as possible. And some folks that are using their job, maybe they're volunteering to get those troubleshooting skills. But when you're ready to take the exam, it also becomes a little bit of a challenge too. My friends at GTS Learning have created an online lab system where you can have Windows XP, Windows Vista, Windows 7, all running virtually in their online lab environment. And it's called Freestyle. You can find out about this at professormesser.com/Freestyle Labs. They will give you an hour free of lab time to be able to try this out yourself and see if it's something that might work for you. They've also got special pricing for folks that are watching my live streams, and I'll show you a little bit of that in just a moment. Let's see if I'm still logged into my Freestyle Labs. I'll give you an idea of what this looks like because it's pretty impressive. They've got all of these labs ready to go, all these courses. I'm going to choose the 220-802 course, and they have Introduction to Windows 7, System Administration, User Account Management, Disk Management, File Management, Applications, Devices, System Management, Utilities. Let's choose that one. And it's going to start up and give me a system management lab. It tells you exactly how the lab's set up. It's got a Windows device on it. It's got a server and a couple of Windows 7 devices, it looks like. And over on the left side of the screen are the machines themselves. They're just sitting here waiting for me to power them on. So let's power on that one. Let's power on, so I could download some things. Let's power on this one, power on that one. Let's power on this one. So let's see what options. Now you can see they even turned into this orange here while they're booting up. So you're effectively starting up virtual worlds outside somewhere on the internet. They're not in my office. They're not in the studio here. I don't have these machines sitting here. They've already loaded the operating system and they've already created a lab for me. So if I look at the labs that are available, there's a lot I could be doing. It takes you step by step through the labs. So let's go to page 1 on the labs. And it says, Step 1, Task 1, using system information, power on and connect to PLab Win 701, search for programs and files, enter MS Info 32. And it gives you screenshots to step through it. So if you've never done it before, that's okay. They'll tell you how to do that. So PLab Win 701. That's the one that just started. So I click it, and it immediately starts up a remote desktop session. I'm already in there, and it's doing remote desktop, so it's not using any local resources on my computer. Here it is, a full Windows machine that's sitting right there through this web remote desktop session. I hit start. I hit in my search programs of files, MS config. There we go, and we can start the MS config. So now I'm stepping through the lab. I'm looking and running Windows 7 or Windows Vista on this device. This is Windows 7, and able to use the functionality and learn more about how to use the OS, even if I'm not even running that OS. My platform that you're looking at right now is a Mac OS 10. Doesn't matter because I'm remotely desktoped into this Windows 7 and running it as if it's sitting here locally on my desktop. I didn't need to buy Windows 7. I didn't need to run Windows 7. I didn't have to configure Windows 7. And probably more importantly, it's got labs that I can step through. So I don't have to stumble around inside of the operating system to see what's there. Really quite a remarkable system that they've got set up. And if you are interested in learning more about that piece, GCS Learning has created some very, very powerful, very useful functions there for a very good price. If you go out, as I mentioned, you can always go out right now and get those for 1 hour for free, but they also have a special price of $99 for us. So if you go out to professormesser.com/freestyle labs, you can get that 1 hour free and see if it's something that might work for you. And we appreciate all of the work that we get, all the help that we get from the folks at GTS Learning. They help support our website and keep things running for us as well. And they're just great people to work with. I've worked with them for many years now. And I really like how, not only how they create their products, I like how they treat their customers. And for me, that's probably the most important part. We have some calls also that are holding. I'm going to go back to the phone lines to the 651 area code. Are you there, caller?
Hi, this is David.
Hello, David. Thanks for calling. What questions do you have for us today?
Well, I just wanted to echo some of the stuff that you've been telling the people and on the chat room here. I hear a lot of young people that are looking for their first job.
Yes.
And part of it is, in this new world, you do need certifications. And when you hear the unemployment, and there's a lot of people in, between 35 and 55 that are having problems finding jobs, they have the knowledge, but they don't have a certification.
Right. Are you in a position where you provide, are you in a hiring position, or are you in an IT position now?
I'm 55 years old and I'm unemployed.
Okay. Is this something that you're noticing or seeing in the industry?
Yeah. Basically, what people are telling me is they don't care what kind of certification that I have, as long as it's certification.
Got it.
That means you have the ability to learn.
Right. You are trainable. we can mold you.
That's what it is.
Yep.
I've sat in rooms with guys who said, I've worked on road construction for 35 years and I know how to run a project. And they said, really? Where's your certification? Well, the guy's got the knowledge.
Right. And
they're not just taking your word for it. Right now, I'm considering a job that they asked me about certifications, and I said that I have none. And they said, well, your resume and the types of companies that you've worked for qualifies you for this job, and we're going to put in an exemption with the employer to hire you.
Got it.
I mean, that's the way that it truly works now. And, as far as how do you get into that first job, I echo what you said before. Consider nonprofits.
Yeah, they have an opportunity to really give you a lot of really good experience, I think.
Yeah, wide variety. They typically have no two PCs that are the same.
That's true.
Oftentimes they're running different operating systems. And just being able to transfer files from one location to another is a problem.
You learn pretty quick how to get around some of those issues.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
when I was still living down in southern New Mexico, actually was the county commissioners asked me to join an advisory board for for the local domestic violence shelter.
Okay.
And they had a lot of problems, and so I started researching it. I found out what their problem is, and part of it was technology, and probably the larger part was fundraising.
Isn't that interesting?
Because they kept hiring people who knew the program,
Right.
but didn't know how to be managers.
Well, that's sort of the struggle that I think every organization goes through, is that it's not about computers. It's not about technology. It's really what you do with them and how you can leverage them to ultimately solve whatever problem you have, or to get to the end goal of your organization.
Yeah, well, where it all ended up is after my research and doing everything, that advisory board, I was voted as the chairman of the board. I moved them into 501c3 status.
Oh, very nice.
As a nonprofit.
Right.
And their application for the final IRS standing is still pending. But they are now an independent board linked to that domestic violence shelter as the fundraising arm.
Gotcha.
I can take that and put it on any resume, and people will sit. I have actually had calls from employers just asking me about that.
It's interesting that the point you make there is an interesting one, that it's not necessarily all about certifications. It's things that the certification can help you get farther along. There's a balancing act with the employers, and you have to make sure that you at least can find the sweet spot of that balancing act.
Yeah, I've actually had employers call me and said, we don't have any jobs available, but we want to know how you did what you did with that domestic violence shelter down there, because we want more people that know how to do that kind of stuff.
It's so true.
So what I'm saying is that putting in time for a nonprofit can actually further your career.
This is one of the things I also see when people want to make a jump from a pure technical position, because generally people are getting their A+ certifications are going on and they're going in at an entry level help desk position where you're fixing things that are broken, or you're clearing out passwords and refreshing those, and it is very technical. You almost lose sight as to what the organization does overall. Changing a password at a manufacturing company is almost the same as changing a password at a transportation company, which is probably almost the same as changing a password at a volunteer 501c organization. So it's making that next leap and that next step to take technology and somehow apply it to what you're doing that can take you not just into a position, but certainly much farther forward through your entire IT career, I think.
Yeah, and the big thing, first job, it's probably going to be a help desk job.
Sure.
What you have to remember is to think beyond that.
So true.
What are the other things involved with that? Okay, changing that password, that's part of the security. There's antivirus, there's malware defense, they all kind of link together. Think in terms of that as far as, furthering your career.
I also think that the folks in the help desk get an opportunity to see everything else that's going on in the organization. And there's some big projects going on right now. Companies are bringing in these massive virtualization platforms. They're changing the way the data centers operate. They're refreshing systems and doing imaging and remote imaging of systems. These are opportunities, if you're in a company, to go to the people that are in charge of those projects and say, I'm really interested in how you're doing this remote imaging process. Can I be involved with that project? I can come in after hours. I can work with you on the weekends. I can find out more about what you're doing. Let's talk over lunch about that piece so that I can get an understanding of that technology. And then they'll see, well, if you're really good at this, we need you to come over into our group now and do more of what we are doing with desktops or servers or data center or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah, exactly. And I see somebody here in chat posted I've held a job in IT for almost 8 years without a cert.
Sure.
I have worked in information and network security for, well, I'm going to say close to 25 years now.
Sure.
And I have never had a cert, ever.
Right.
And, you know, they look at my resume, but you worked for really big companies along the way.
That's
I said,
right.
yeah, I've worked for corporations, you know. But times have changed, and you have to get over that hump. And for people who are curious now how long I've been around in computers, my first home computer was an original IBM PC Junior.
Okay.
The first computer that I actually worked on was a Burroughs 1200 mainframe.
Nice.
There was no processor.
So how did
There
that
were
work?
vacuum tubes.
Oh, that's right.
Vacuum tubes.
That's right.
Yeah. Load your operating system, punched cards. 3 to 4 trays that are 3 foot to 4 foot long.
Yep.
You slip in the cards one at a time.
I remember those days.
And people say, well, that's really old. No. This is progress.
Now, the PC Junior,
step.
I'm trying to remember, is that the one that did not have a keyboard cable? It was like a wireless keyboard, one of the first wireless keyboards? Wasn't it?
No, when they sold you the PC Junior, that's literally what they sold you.
Yeah.
Just the PC Junior.
It was an all-in-one thing. You still had to get the monitor and everything else with it.
Monitor, keyboard, I think mouse was just very beginning at that point. If you wanted to upgrade memory, and this is kind of funny because this was an answer to one of the questions in the first part, is how do you upgrade memory? And one of the wrong answers was, well, you bolt it on the outside of the box.
Like Frankenstein.
And that's actually what you had. That's actually what you had to do for a PC Junior.
You also had to do that there was a compact portable system that had external things you would latch on to the side of the box. And I remember doing a hard drive upgrade, the PC Junior. They didn't come with a hard drive, or we upgraded. I think I put in a 10 megabyte or 20 megabyte hard drive into that one. That does take me back. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, I see somebody worked on a PDP-11. Woo-hoo, ticker tape.
There you go. I remember those days. It's interesting how all that applies. The concept hasn't changed, though. You still need to know the technology so you can apply it towards what the goals of the organization are. And I think, to your point, that's an exceptional thing to keep in mind.
Yeah, exactly. Always look forward. Always look for the next thing.
That's great.
Good luck, everyone.
Thank you, David. I think there's... we always talk about technology and knowing the answer to the questions is the thing you always have to think about when working with that piece. But at the end of the day, it's really about people. It's really about getting the organization to do what you need to do. Okay, let's go to the calls. I know I'm past an hour. We're going to go past an hour today. My voice is held out, so I'm kind of happy about that. Let's go back to I'm going to go back to that 661 area code real quick where I heard myself echoing. Are you there, 661?
Good luck, everyone. Thank you, David.
I'll see. Now we're lagged behind. So sad. Instead, we're going to go to 586. Is the 586 caller there?
Yes, hello?
Hey, what's your name?
Mark from Michigan.
Hello, Mark from Michigan. So what answers can we hope to provide for you today?
First of all, I'd like to say I like your programs, and thank you for putting that out there.
Thanks, Mark.
I just wish I would have known about it before I paid for my schooling. I would have just went and studied your stuff and went to the school and took the exam.
Well, I wish that as well, but now at least you have something to go with there.
Right. Yep. But I have a question. Being that I have my A+ certification, and I understand that's the beginning stages in the IT world.
Right.
I had some training on problem resolution and everything. I had purchased recently a laptop, and I won't put what brand it is out there, but it starts with an H.
Okay.
And you can go from there.
Right.
But
a very short name.
I was having problems with right. I was having problems with vertical or horizontal lines going across the screen.
Ah, okay.
And so first thing I thought of was the video card.
Good place to start.
So I've updated the video card driver, and they told me when I called in there, I let them know, hey, I'm A+ certified, but this is I could repair the problem. But
you called the manufacturers who you were talking to.
Right.
Okay.
And let them know, hey, I can repair this. I do it all day long, but the computer is under warranty.
Ah.
And why should I come out of my pocket to pay for parts, for one, and for two, once I open that case, it voids the warranty.
Yep, sure does.
So I was letting them know, can you check the video card? So they said, well, send it in. I sent it in, got it back. They claimed that all they did was updated the video card from the manufacturer, which I already did that anyway.
Gotcha.
Video card, not through the device manager.
The driver itself.
So I get the laptop back and the same problem.
Of course.
Lines jumping across the screen.
Right.
So then being that it was a new laptop, I video recorded it on high definition. I didn't have anything on the laptop.
Okay.
So I posted videos of the problem happening, and I posted them on the desktop and asked them to view the video.
Oh, very nice.
They could see it.
Okay.
So I sent it in to them. They, instead of them viewing the videos, they reinstalled the operating system.
Well, yeah, because it's got videos everywhere. There's a bunch of videos junk on the desktop. We need to clean that off.
Right. So they reinstalled the operating system instead of watching those videos.
Right.
And I let them know again, hey, please check the video card. Because in my experience, that's what you would want to check. They sent it back, still no problem. Said everything is normal.
Right. And
now the warranty, by this time, after the sixth time of sending it back, the warranty is over now. So my question is to you, what would you think that would be with the video lines going across? I've already replaced it, and I haven't had the problem since.
What specifically did you replace?
The video.
The video display, the video subsystem on the laptop, the video drivers, which specifically?
Oh, the display.
Oh, okay.
So they didn't. I don't understand why they wouldn't have checked that.
Right. You'd think they do what we would normally do.
Would you think that would?
I would.
I'm sorry.
In fact, I'm going to find a website here real quick that can help with these types of things, because obviously the thing you're talking about, it's very, it's one that has, applies to people who are technicians in the field working with this. And when you said HP and said video, I naturally thought of a couple of things that are chronic or systemic problems with certain laptops from certain manufacturers and certain models. And the real challenge is finding those things when they happen. It's interesting that they didn't bother running their own diagnostics, because if they had run it, they would have probably seen the issue that you were seeing. And that's where I would normally start. If I ever need to talk to a manufacturer, I get the manufacturer's diagnostic disc, and I run the manufacturer's diagnostic disc, and I find the problem occurring with their disk, because then there's no operating system, there's no third-party software. It's their disk that I ran. And I say, when I run this test number 3A video display, it shows me horizontal lines across the screen. Here's a picture, here's a video, in that piece. Because they just ignore everything else. They just assume you're infected with malware. You don't know what you're doing. The video, you just don't know how to look at the video properly. They just have no concept of those things. One of the websites that I love to go to for these types of problems is one called TechNibble. TechNibble is a site that is really for people that are in the repair world. Most specifically, they have a set of forums that are really good about solving problems, getting rid of bad malware, trying to find video problems. And when you mentioned that particular manufacturer with that particular video and that particular symptom, I tend to think of the video cable that connects the LCD display to the motherboard of the laptop, because, of course, you're opening and closing that video display all the time. And there are certain laptop models that don't take very well to that. And they'll either the ribbon cable itself will get damaged, or it'll simply become loose and need to be readjusted again. That in my mind tends to be, and in fact, you replace the entire thing, which probably, of course, replaced your ribbon cable as well. And the problem went away. So it makes sense to me. You'd already figured it out from the very beginning. I would have, if I was in your position again, I would have almost insisted they do a warranty replacement on it anyway, because you did bring up the problem prior to the warranty expiring.
I did do that, and they told me that the computer has to be sent back for the same exact problem at least 4 times. And the thing about it was, when they sent it back to me, that was happening. And then one of the left speaker busted and wasn't working. And I sent it back to them for the lines and the speaker. They sent it back to me and told me that they reinstalled the operating system, right? But they never even fixed the speaker.
I think unfortunately there may be certain warranty repair organizations that aren't quite with the program. I don't even know what the send it back 4 times things even means. Is it not broken until it goes back 4 times, or is that's an arbitrary number that somebody pulled out of the air? Computers are very interesting because when you run the ones and zeros through it, it works exactly the same way every time. There is no changes to the way it operates. It either does work or it doesn't work. And I think sometimes it's more of a communications issue, trying to get them to understand what you're seeing rather than them really solving a type of problem you might have. It's unfortunate you had to go through all of that. What's interesting to me is that you already had your certifications. You already diagnosed what you thought the problem was. You just weren't able to go in and actually see if that problem existed. And at the end of the day, Mark, that's exactly what it was.
Yeah, and I can't believe that they wouldn't even, they didn't even take my word. Hey, I'm taking account that I'm a certified, A+ certified, and I'm letting them know, hey, here's the problem. Can you please just check this? And hey, here's high definition videos with nothing else on my desktop but those. Can you please watch them and you'll see the problem?
That's very interesting information, sir. Have you turned it off and back on again? Because that's what my sheet of paper tells me to ask you at this point. And then they have you turn it off and back on again. Okay, let's flip the page. Have you reinstalled the operating system? So that they don't know, and the people answering the calls may have no idea what an A+ certification is. All they know is that the normal step is to cycle it through and let's reload the OS, and they didn't bother looking, and that's unfortunate. If nothing else, maybe it helps you decide next time which manufacturer's laptop might be a better choice.
Oh, it definitely did. It definitely did.
No question about that one.
I thank you for your time, and I just wanted to get your view on that. If you would have thought the same thing that I was thinking.
You were right on the money. I bet if you go into the Tech Nibble forums and you search for HP laptop and video, I bet you're going to find many different threads in the forums discussing, and I bet they'll even find your specific model on there. You can put that in and you'll find that too. It's just something that's so common that you were right on the money.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And you're doing a good job with your videos. Thanks. I love watching them.
Thanks. That was a great story. Thanks for calling, Mark.
Day. All right. Bye-bye.
I think there's a lesson to be learned there, not just in technology, but a lesson to be learned about solving problems when working with a vendor, or not solving the problem when working with the vendor. I think that's also a challenge we run into. This is, this has been a fantastic study group this month. I appreciate all of the calls. Stay on on the line. If you're still listening, we'll be trying to take some calls in the after show as well, but we're well past our 1 hour time frame. I do want to remind you that we are absolutely out on Twitter and on YouTube. Some people said, I just don't have any money. I'm watching the videos and I don't have money to contribute. That's absolutely fine. That's why I put them out there for free. If you would like to help support the site, as I mentioned, it is surprising how much it helps when you go out and subscribe to me on YouTube and follow me on Twitter. Those types of things are great. I want to remind you about the A+ study guides that are out there at professormesser.com/A+SG. Some folks told me my Freestyle Labs link has changed. We've been doing some work on those websites through the month, so I'll make sure that is updated by when we're done with this study group today so that you can get to it. And you'd like to know more, it's at Freestyle Labs, and the folks in the chat room were nice enough to put up some links that would actually get you there on those pieces, and I'll make sure that I put them there because there's a very specific link that you have to use to get that $99, and of course that helps support our site here at Professor Messer. And of course we do these every month. We do an A+ study group every month. We do a Network Plus study group. We'll do another one tomorrow. Next week. We will do the Network Plus study group for that piece. I really do appreciate everybody who joins us live. The phone calls this month have been phenomenal. It's been great to have you here, and I really do appreciate all the questions and support and the information that you send me throughout the month. It's really, really makes these study groups become a very valuable source, hopefully, for the things that you're doing as well. Thanks again for joining us, everybody. We'll see you next month on the A+ study group.